What's going on, guys? Sam here from Built Not Bought. Now, if you haven't been watching my channel, the latest thing we've been doing on the channel is swapping out the engine of my kind of hero vehicle, the one that started this whole channel, to a DURAMAX diesel. Now that might be a bit of an insight right there. The original car. That is why I didn't build a new one fresh. That Patrol is something I'm gonna keep forever. It is one of those real like sentimental cars to me, so it didn't make sense to go and sell it. Being the original car I built years ago, I'd rather take the motor out and start afresh and keep that same body. That was the reason I kept that car. So I've got a bit of a list here, a few things written down, different categories. So there'll be chapters down here if you want to work out the different sections, what I'm talking about here. But we're going to start off with the major thing. The one that pushed me over the edge was reliability. Now, I've been preaching for ages and saying that reliability, I'm not really fussed about, and it was true back then. I knew the LS may be a bit temperamental, putting high horsepower in a car, something that wasn't designed to tow or push anything heavy, basically wasn't an issue for me. Because I like working on the cars, I like building them, I like fixing them. So if there was ever an issue, I was happy to roll the thing to the shed and work on it. And I did that for years. Drove it, break it, fix it, drive it, break it, fix it, repeat, that sort of thing. And that works for me, but I have a few other cars now that are temperamental as well, and I wanted something reliable. There are a few trips I've been on, kind of distance. You start going 3,000 or 4,000 kilometers, you want something reliable, and I'm having issues out in the middle of the desert, and it just wasn't working for me. So, clicked in my head, I said, I need a car that's a reliable tourer. So it was time to change the Patrol to be the car I can jump in and drive and not have to worry about. So for years and years, it was absolutely fine with the LS. I loved it, it served its purpose, and I do highly recommend that as a conversion if it's your weekender, if it's your toy, if you want to make a ton of noise and power. It's way more fun to drive than the DURAMAX, let me tell you that. But if you want something that you're driving every day, that you want to go on a trip with, diesel is the way. And I've been told that for years, and it's true. Diesels are way more reliable, they're just more simple, there's less things to go wrong. So what were the major issues I had with the LS? So we're talking things, accessories kept like failing. We had alternators fail, I had 2 water pumps that went through, I had 3 or 4 pulleys that seized up on the front, and then it just started getting a lot of wear and tear as well. I'll get some piston slap. Being a forged internals motor, it started getting a bit of wear happening past the rings, a bit of blow by. You have plugs fouling up. I've had a couple of fuel pumps fail. And then it's just the usual conversion issues with hoses rubbing through, had power steering lines blow, all sorts of stuff. Blower belts popped off. That was a drama for ages because it's spinning so fast with the supercharger. It's fine on a street car, but as soon as you get some water in there, some mud or dirt, it just kept wanting to throw the belt or slip. I went to an interchiller. Heat was a big thing. So with the supercharger, it has that intercooler and it needs airflow. I kept having dramas in soft sand with not enough airflow, the intake temps were spiking. So I went to an interchiller, which fixed the problem temporarily. I had some leaks in my aircon system, which was nothing to do with the interchiller. That worked fine, but the leaking in the aircon system, as soon as it dumps its gas, it starts working as a heater, and I had intake temps spiking higher than my coolant temps because I was out in the bush somewhere where I couldn't just go down the road and get it regassed, whereas if you're in a street car, you could probably get that sorted pretty quickly. So the thing started stacking up, and it got to the point where it had mad piston slap, the motor needed a rebuild with blow-by and all that. I had a failed alternator again, the interchiller wasn't working. It was ready to go on a trip and the car was broken. I was like, bugger this. So that's what pushed me over the edge to pull it out. Not to mention the numerous numbers of gearboxes and diffs, but the DURAMAX is basically gonna have the same problem. Flashback to a few days ago. So that's enough rambling along with reliability. Let's move on to the next one, which is power. Now, the power of the LS was absolutely awesome. Now, the delivery, I feel like the LS had a lot more up and go, but on the numbers side of things, we're talking torque with diesels. This is part of the reason why I chose the DURAMAX as well, which we'll get into a bit later, but the torque you can get out of that DURAMAX motor is absolutely insane. With the tune that I've got, it's got 5 switchable tunes. I'm on a low one at the moment, but it can be wound up with the setup and the turbo and the ejectors that I've got. It has a potential, on paper, 600 horsepower, 1500 newton meters of torque. Now the LS was putting out about 600 horsepower as well, so it's the same horsepower, but the torque is almost double. And I can feel that when I drive it. When you're pulling up a hill or something, the LS struggled a bit to tow. So the power was there, but the torque wasn't. I was getting frustrated when I had to tow a car trailer and it wouldn't accelerate up a hill. It just felt like it was loading that motor up too much. And you can imagine That Commodore engine was designed to drive in a Commodore. In a Patrol, it's like it's towing a four-wheel drive on the back all the time anyway, regardless, without a trailer on the back. So when you load it up even more, it just struggled. With the DURAMAX, anything I put on the back, it just pulls up hills, goes around cars on the highway. It's just super easy. It makes light work of it. You don't even feel that the trailer or the weight's there. So that's a really good bonus as well. The torque just made it that much more drivable and sensible because of the weight that I'm pushing. Now cost, I'm going to talk about cost as well. This is sort of an even playing field, I'm going to say. To buy a DURAMAX motor, it's anywhere between $15,000 to $20,000 to start with, so it's a big outlay. But the LS motor, I probably spent $35,000 to $40,000 on that engine over a long period of time. And that is because of the different things that kept failing on it and the upgrades I had to make it suitable for the weight of that four-wheel drive. So at the end of the day, a strong built LS motor to handle the four-wheel drive's weight and power and that is going to cost the same as what a DURAMAX is anyway. Conversion costs, very similar. A lot of cost comes from the conversion parts, sumps, engine mounts and all that, which you can pay the same with an LS conversion, but you get a lot more labor intensive stuff on the DURAMAX. So if you got on the TIG, you can make your own piping, you'll be able to do it in pretty much the same cost as it is to do a proper LS conversion. So they're pretty much even. I reckon the whole conversion for the LS was about, what are we talking, $40,000, and the DURAMAX was about $40,000 as well. Drive in, drive out. In my workshop though. Next one we'll talk about is economy, which was obviously a massive downside with the LS. Anything petrol, I put large long-range tanks in my car to basically get the range to match a lot of cars that I went on trips with. I got about 1,000 Ks. The fuel economy was about 25 litres per 100, which is pretty astronomical. Anytime you load it up with a heap more weight, it could go up to anywhere to around 30 litres per 100. Plus you're using premium 98 fuel, which you can't get everywhere if you go on a long trip. And it also is very expensive. You're paying up to $2 a litre in some cities around Australia. Now with the diesel, obviously you're having double torque and everything, but towing with less resistance, like it can tow and basically have the same economy. I'm seeing about 17 litres per 100, which is really bloody awesome, and it's diesel, so it's a bit cheaper at the moment to fill up the tank. And I'm getting about up to 1,300 kilometres range with the tanks that I got. So the economy is an absolute bonus, but definitely more economy with the diesel rather than the petrol. So we're just getting more ticks here. Better economy, better power, better torque, same cost. You can see where I'm going with this. More reliable. Last couple of points. So the last one is obviously the history of the car. This is kind of specific to what I do, but like I said at the start of the video, it's the original car that I built on the channel. So for me, I just didn't want to start a new build. It had to go on that car, and I felt like this will lead on to the next thing as well. It needed to be a V8. The history of the built not bought truck always had the LS motor. So to put like a 6-cylinder back in it didn't quite make sense. So that's why I went with the DURAMAX in the end. So leading on to the last section, it is other options of engines. Now I went through a bunch of different things. I have driven, okay, let's start with the options. What have we got? I needed power. TD42s, they just don't make power. And if you do, they're just unreliable and they get hot. There's going to be a lot of people in the comments saying, oh, I've got this, I've got that. No. The next best thing from a TD42 would be an FTE engine. So the 1HD FTE, awesome motor, but not super heaps of potential when it comes to power. I mean, you can wind them up a heap. I know there's a couple of guys out there with big power FTEs, but when we're talking big power, we're talking maybe 400 or 500 horsepower, not stupid, ridiculous power. So the next big daddy for the FTE would be the Cummins. So they could probably start around that power, and you got the potential to go up to 2,000 plus horsepower. The first thing I looked at when I started to decide for a motor was to look in the US. They've got massive trucks over there. All the Rams, the Silverados, the F trucks, they run those big engines, and it's for a reason. So they can have that extra power and they can wind them up and not have a drama. I've driven a Cummins. It was horrible. It was a rattly old thing. It literally felt like you were driving a garbage truck.
Noise like a, I don't know, garbage truck. I guess it's probably...
It's real rattly. Yeah. You start thing up, the floor would shake, it was real noisy. You take off and it just kind of lunges through. There was no nice note, it was just I don't know, a heap of air, heap of noise. I didn't really like it, and I knew as soon as I hopped in a Cummins Patrol, it wasn't for me. So that kind of ruled that out. Then you're kind of left with, I guess, the DURAMAX and the Power Stroke. Now, I haven't seen many Power Stroke conversions, and I think they're a much larger engine, and it was just going to be a big pain in the ass. So there wasn't enough information out there. So that left me with the DURAMAX. It was a V8, it was diesel, it had plenty of potential to make a ton of power, and there are a few guys in Australia who have done the conversion before, so I knew it was a possibility, and I didn't want to do something super rare where it ends up any dramas, then I can't get parts for it. So that is sort of the story of how I ended up at the DURAMAX. And it was a tricky conversion. It isn't something I recommend doing if you don't have experience with engine conversions. It's very labor intensive, and you'll see there's one more episode to go where we go on the first trip, but it's pretty much finished off. But you can sort of see how much work went into it fabrication wise, and a ton was done off camera. It was just so many little bits and pieces that we had to sort out that just were super boring, super tedious. But yeah, it's one of those things that takes a lot of time and a lot of patience, which I don't have, but we made it happen in about 6 weeks. So that's my story of how I came to the conclusion to choose the DURAMAX motor for what I want to do and the reason why I did it. So I hope at the end of the day you can take anything away from this. If you're thinking about doing a conversion in your four-wheel drive, I wouldn't look past the DURAMAX. They're an awesome engine. They're a bit of a pain in the butt conversion, like I said, but I feel like everyone I've spoken to says as soon as the motor's in there and they've gone through the teething issues, it's been pretty bulletproof, and they haven't had any issues. Man, this is a lot of talking in one sitting. I'm just starting to freak out a bit. I'm rambling on a bit. Anyway, guys, make sure you check out the build. I'll link it down below, the full series of the DURAMAX conversion. Now, PS, little teaser at the end. You're probably wondering, what am I doing with that engine? I don't know. All I know is if I sell it now, I'm not going to get the money I spent on it, and if I want to build it later, because guarantee there'll be a car I have in the future and go, darn, I wish I had that LS motor. It would have been perfect for this car. No, it's not going in the drift car. No, it's not going in the Chevy. So it'll be kind of stored away and will be rebuilt. It needs a rebuild, and then it'll be used in a car in the future. So that pretty much wraps it up. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Thanks for watching. Oh, I just checked my notes. I had in here Barra in the conversions. Didn't even mention the Barra. I wonder why. You tell me why I didn't put Barra in the comments. Hello guys, and welcome to Built Not Bought HQ. Make sure to click on the far left to subscribe to the channel. Click down below to see the latest episode if you missed it. And don't forget our merchandise on our website. See you in the next episode.